Hello my love, it's Rachel here, and today I'm going to share with you decks that I used the most for the month of August 2025. Yeah, August is over and I'm excited because today is Friday, August 29, so I'll be able to share this video with you on time. I'm not late for the party, right? It's great. So, okay, actually I wanted to share a video about decks that I had intention to work with in August and I didn't have the time to do that. So there are two decks that I really set intention to work with them in the beginning of the month, and I did that. I worked with them every single day. I am proud of me because of that, proud of myself, and I want to share with you the experience. I'm really excited to share that with you, right? So I'm going to leave these two decks for the end so we can talk a little bit more about them. I'm going to start by sharing with you, well, two staples, especially, one staple, which is this deck here, the Wild Unknown Pocket Archetypes. Well, I always use this deck, as I tell you, every day for client readings to define the archetype that is active in my client's life at the moment in time when we are when the reading is being done. For this deck here, I have a comprehensive, a beautiful review comparing the pocket edition with the standard edition, so I'm going to link the review here for you and you can go there and see a little bit more about this deck. And I always have a tarot deck, major arcana only, here on my table because I define these two archetypes, the archetype from the pocket archetypes and the archetype from major arcana that is active in my client's life at that moment. And for this month, I used this deck here. This deck came in a kit that is in my collection for several years, but I was not using, and it's called, I think, Tarot Basics, something like this. It comes with a guidebook, and it is actually the major arcana. The cards are illustrated like this one, but the minor arcana is like a pip deck. And I think it's interesting. Let me show you. So you'll see here the Lover's card, how it is kind of a mix of the Marseille and the Rider-Waite-Smith. So I decided to use this deck. You can see the card stock's not great, not at all. It's a very simple deck, but I decided to use it because we have all the astrological signs and the planets here, and I found that it would be interesting because I was using the, let me see here, the Golden Art Nouveau, I think is the name, right? I showed in the last video. And now I'm changing to this one because we are heading to the end of summer, getting ready for fall, especially here in the true north. Fall comes earlier. We love fall here, we love winter, so it always comes a little earlier. Now, tarot deck. So I used a lot this month my dear Tarot Illuminati because I'm preparing the workshop with the Empress and the Queens, and I love to use these court cards for that. They're beautiful, so I've been using the Tarot Illuminati because of that. And in the end of the day, I end up using this deck for readings as well. So I use it in professional readings. I love this deck for, especially for readings when the client's trying to find their own power. It's beautiful for business readings. It's beautiful for readings where, as I said, the client is trying to find her own power. And it happens a lot with business or professional life, career. It's a beautiful deck for that. Another deck that I used a lot is my beloved Tarot of the Abyss. For this one, we have a review here as well, so I'm going to link the review for you. Detailed review about this deck, so special. I love this deck so much. And the reason why, I have been using this deck a lot as well is because of the court cards. Because of the workshop, so I use these court cards a lot and I end up using the deck. Love this deck for professional readings, personal readings and professional readings, but she loves to talk to other people as well, and for all kind of readings. Doesn't matter, it is a romantic relationship, business, career, spiritual path, doesn't matter. This deck's one of the most versatile decks that I have, so she loves to talk about all kind of subjects. She's the old sister that is always there to give us a beautiful, beautiful advice, right? And then, talking about oracle decks, I added to my collection this month this deck here, the Messenger Oracle by Ravine Fallon, because I have her Gaia Tarot. Gaia Tarot, I think is the name. Well, guys, I'm very good with faces. I'm very good with images, but names, sometimes I forget them, okay? I think it's very clear for you if you have been watching several videos with me, but yeah, sometimes I forget names, but I never forget faces and images and stuff like that. Anyways, so I bought this deck because of the Gaia Tarot. I think it's Gaia Tarot, Ravine Fallon's Tarot. And I like to use a deck as an oracle deck. The deck was a way for years and years, and now I'm using again. And I decided to add this one to my collection. These decks, well, I'll be honest with you. The deck, the guidebook, is not that full of information, so I feel like I don't use the guidebook. I feel like this deck's nice for Clarify Tarot, and I would say it's more for Clarifying Tarot, actually. And I think that depends on the reading. You know, a while ago, I searched favorite oracle decks to Clarify Tarot. I don't remember how years ago or months, I don't remember. And nothing came up here on YouTube. So maybe I didn't search properly, but I found it interesting and it makes sense because we're going to use any deck you want. But I think it would be interesting creating a video with oracle decks in my collection that I like to use to Clarify Tarot, and which decks for what kind of reading, let's say, because sometimes sometimes a reading is more about shadow work. So there's a specific deck that would be better for that, in my opinion. Maybe it is about spiritual path. Maybe the person is ready to go deeper. Maybe they are not. Maybe they need something more even loving, even kind, more compassionate. So it depends on the moment and the kind of reading. This deck here is beautiful for this kind of readings when the person needs some uplifting message, find the light in their lives or in the issue that is showing up in their lives at the moment in time when they come for a session. This deck's beautiful for that. There are some cute cards here like this one. Know you belong. It speaks with me, this card. And many of us, I think. And look at this one. I love owls. And this one is see the truth. Beautiful. I really enjoy this deck. And I enjoy this deck in the month of August. Oh, I forgot to show you. Of course, I always have an OG Rider-Waite-Smith here. And it's been my Albano Waite. But I don't know. I feel that she's leaving and my Universal is coming back now. Let's see what's going to happen for September. I'm going to share my video with my intentions for September, decks that I have the intention to work with September. I think I'm going to upload on September 1st. Woohoo! Yeah, I'm good on my schedule. Eh? A deck that I used the month of August, I started getting to know this deck, is the Reclaim Oracle. Now, this deck came to my collection. Well, I think we all have seen this deck around for a long time, but it would never really speak to me until I started seeing this video on Elizabeth's channel. And then I said, you know what, it may be interesting for me. And then I decided to go ahead and add this deck to my collection. It's, I don't know, I even feel emotional. This deck's so amazing, so beautiful. And it took me by surprise because my plan was just to go through the cards and identify some emotions. But this deck's beautiful for readings. believe it or not. I'm going to give you an example. I was in a reading, and then there was the issue. I will not remember the cards, the specific cards that came out, but it was about the issue that the person was facing. And then the card, when I decided to pull one card from this deck for emotions, and the card was powerless. And then in another card, when you're talking about what she could do about that, right? What kind of energy she needed. We were making a specific reading. And then I decided to pull a card from this deck and came power. I found it so, I mean, these kind of things, at least for me, it makes working with decks, with tarot and oracle decks, something so special. Something so beautiful, the synchronicity and everything else. I love it. The only thing that disappointed me a little bit about this deck is that there's no depression. I don't know. There's no depression here. And I think depression should be in this deck. At least in my experience, it would be so important to have depression. I don't know if I'm crazy and I couldn't find in the card or even in the guidebook, but I didn't find depression. Okay. Oh, not okay. So I worked with Soul Cards 1 a lot in August. Now, I know that I promised, and I am going to create a video sharing with you how I work with the Soul Cards 1 and Soul Cards 2 using Kabbalah Foundation, okay? The Tree of Life. The Tree of Life, more specifically, well, I'm not going to start explaining that now, but it is the Tree of Life as well, but it's very simple. It's very simple, and I want to share with you how I work with this deck. Now, I worked with this deck a lot in August, in moments, especially in that week before my period. Sometimes I can feel some things that are nice to work with this deck, and I use this deck for clients' readings as well. It's a deck, fantastic deck. I simply love the soul cards, and I'm looking forward to talk more about this deck with you. But it's a deck that has no guidebook, so you are going to rely entirely on your intuition, and I think it's really gorgeous, beautiful, and powerful because you can draw the same card in different days, and they're going to mean something completely different for you. It's beautiful. I really love this deck. Now, so we are going to the two main decks. 2 stars that I had in the month of August here. Let me have this. So, what happens is, around 8 years ago, I think 2017, so there were a few decks that I was not connecting with them, and I said, you know what, I'm going to place these decks on a box and I'm going to leave them aside until I decide to work with them. And then I left them in another house, and it was 8 years ago. Then something happened this year. I started thinking a lot about these decks. I knew the decks that were there, like I can't name all of them here for you, but none of them was like, oh, I completely forgot that I had a deck. No, I remember all of them, but it was almost 20 decks. And then I decided to bring these decks and start work with them, right? I think, well, the majority of them, I don't feel that they should leave my collection. And I already told you, like I don't know, I work with tarot and oracle since 2015, but last year something shifted in my life in such a deep, well, it peaked last year, but it started around 2022. I went through a dark night of the soul that lasted years, and I would say that last year was like a peak, and my relationship with the cards, I don't know, it got so much deeper, and it reached another level, a level that I would never think. So I started working with different decks, and that started bringing I'm just thinking here, it brought a new way to look at several things in life, spiritual life, in the world. And my teacher card is the Hanged Man. It is about changing your point of view. It is about pause and so on, but in my experience, it's a lot about changing your point of view. Let me share you something about this deck that I'm using, the Major Arcana. Let me show you something here that I really like when I see the Hanged Man with these coins falling off his pocket. It's not about money. It is something so powerful, a powerful message. I am a Capricorn with Taurus, so and North Node in Scorpio. So there's a lot to learn from the Hanged Man. And well, decks, they help me with that task. I can see things different through the decks, and then I can change the way I look at life. And I think we are always changing, or at least we should be always changing, always expanding, always learning, right? Okay, so I was looking at these decks. First of them, so it is a tarot and an oracle deck that I decided to commit with them. I decided that I would work with them every single day to see what happens, because I would never connect with these decks. The tarot deck is the Crystal Visions Tarot. Now, this is a deck from 2011. I haven't seen people talking about this deck in a long, long time. People don't talk about it. People don't show this deck as their favorite, because truth is, we have so many options all the time that it feels like you are almost always looking for the next new thing. And then we don't stop to look at old things, old decks. Even to buy a new deck, we don't have to buy only the last deck. We can look at decks from 2011, 2005 and buy those decks as well. There are, oh guys, there's gold back then. And this is one of those decks. Now, I bought this deck then, and then I trimmed. It is the delicious US Games card that for me feels like plastic. It's not plastic. I love this cardstock. And it used to be a white border, like regular white border that US Games has. And then I trimmed. Nowadays I wouldn't trim. Guys, I was a compulsive trimmer. I used to trim all my decks like years ago. I would keep it. But anyways, so look at these colors. And the reason why I decided to buy this deck back then was because it was, people would say it's a feminine deck. And we didn't have as many options as we have today, right? And I decided to buy this deck, but I would never connect with her that much. Now I decided to work with her, and I'm going to tell you, I am in love. This deck looks beautiful for spring, for summer. Look all these colors, right? Beautiful colors. It is a deck, the artwork feels like if it was for a teenager. That's what I feel about this deck. For me, this deck feels like the light version of the Tarot Vampires. Because Tarot Vampires, for me, that's a deck, an artwork for teenagers as well. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be offensive, because I don't think it's offensive, right? Saying that it is an artwork for teenagers. I just think, and even because of that, because I was thinking about this artwork, it feels like something that I would love when I was a teenager. We talk a lot about healing the inner child, but we don't talk about healing the inner teenager. And believe it or not, that is as important as it is working in healing the inner child. Of course, I understand that we think, okay, if I heal the inner child, everything else will be fine. But there are experiences that we went through as a teenagers, maybe as a consequence of what happened to us when we were children, or maybe not, that we don't look at those things, especially for us as women, girls. We went through so much when it comes to hormones, and sometimes was hard to handle. And when I see a teenager girl and sometimes she's having all those hard moments working with her own emotions, I always say that. Remember how it was being a 13, a 14, a 15 years old. You know, things are changing inside of us and then we are still finding out what's happening. Anyways, this deck has things that I love. So one of them, lots of lotus flowers here in the Suit of Cups. I love lotus flowers. It is a symbol that is very important on my path. I simply love it. So beautiful. There are butterflies. I'm not that connected with butterflies, but it's okay. It's not that I dislike them. But there are dragons here. And I have a beautiful connection with dragons. So it is my sign in the Chinese astrology. I am a fire dragon, right? And there are angel wings. And angels and mermaids, they were the first, I'll not say first, but the first energies that I really worked strongly in my life. When I was a teenager, I started mermaids since I was really young. I don't even remember child. But angels, since I was teenager, I started having something with angels and adding them to my collection. So I've been working with this deck. What happens then with the Crystal Visions Tarot? It is a beautiful deck. Yes, super feminine. She is a truth teller, okay? She's going to tell you the truth. And she's not on your face. Sometimes you have to draw more cards. Sometimes you have to think a little bit more when you are reading with this deck. Even though she's gorgeous, she's beautiful, she's loving. I love this deck. And even though you have this kind of image, I don't think that it is. Maybe in another tarot deck, another artwork, it would be really scary, but it's not. And let's be honest, the more we know tarot, we know that this is not scary. No card here is scary. So, yeah. And, oh, you have an extra card? No card. And because, as I told you, she's not on your face, sometimes you're going to, of course, you can perform a full reading with her. But sometimes you feel like drawing some cards, but I really like to clarify tarot with Oracle. And then that's when this baby here finds her place, her spotlight, right? So this is the Fairy Forest Oracle by Lucy Cavendish, another old deck that I trimmed. So what happens is, I don't feel connected with fairy. I just don't. And I think that it is because of the place where I grew up. Because in South America, we don't have this culture of the fairies. It's not that strong as I can see here. In North America or Europe, actually, the myth of the fairies, it is a myth that came from Celtic countries, right? Scotland, Ireland, and then it spread through Europe. And I didn't grow up thinking or talking or learning about fairies, but about mermaids. Yes, we have the ocean there, right? A lot. It is a tropical country, so we would go to the beach and stuff like that. Well, maybe that's just my experience, but that's my experience. So not connect with these beings, with this energy. Better say, not the beings, energy. And then, okay, this deck came and I said, I'll give it a try. Let's see what happens. I trimmed the deck. The back used to, I don't like it at all. Now, because this year 2025 trash holds my word, I like it. I just don't like that much. This, I don't know, elf here, this black cats, and this witch. I don't think it was necessary. But okay. What I don't like, let me rephrase this. What I didn't like about this deck back then, I love this card. different kinds of artwork. So can you see the difference? Can you see the difference? Let me show you here. I think here you can see as well. Look the difference. So different kinds of artwork going on here. Let me show you. Look. Everything's different, or lots of them. There's no... I would feel back then that there was not a solid artwork throughout the deck, and that would annoy me a lot. I couldn't work with decks with different kinds of artwork. So now, when I decided to work with this deck, I thought that there were several artists here. And no, it's just one. Artwork by Maxine Gadd. It's just one artist, but the artwork's so different. And I couldn't work with that. I only wanted decks where I could find, I would say like, oh, the cards, they don't talk to each other. You know, there's no conversation. And truth is, because last year I started working with a lot of collage decks that helped me. This is a collage deck with different artists, and I love it. I would never, Rachel from 2015, 2016, no way, forget about it. It makes no sense. That was, for me, of course, not in general, but for me, I would feel that it made no sense at all. So I wouldn't like this kind of decks, and that's why I decided, I don't know, I couldn't connect with this deck, plus the fact that it's fairy, a fairy deck. So now I decided to work with her, and oh my god, this deck's so amazing. So if you love the fairy energy, please give it a try. I think you should think about it. It's a beautiful deck. So we have the artwork, we have it's their names, right? Atheling, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it. Atheling, it says nobility, grace, and gratitude. This one is the beautiful image in the cover, in the box, Astrude, love, fire, sensuality, and fertility. It's beautiful. So this is a deck that I don't use a guidebook, and I use with this deck, I work with this deck intuitively and with the keywords. This deck's beautiful for clarifying tarot. Yes, she clarifies this deck here, the Crystal Visions, beautifully. It was really nice, so I used these two decks together. She's the deck as well. Well, okay, so it's great to clarify tarot. It's great to find a theme for your reading. For you to have an idea, I started the month of August, so I said, okay, I'm going to work with these decks on my personal practice only, because I have to get to know, right, these decks. I don't know them to work professionally, even though this is very Rider-Waite-Smith, they're very direct, but I was not feeling confident with them. It's like they were kind of strangers, you know? And then in just 2 weeks, we became best friends, and they came for my professional readings. So I used these decks, especially in the last week of September, in all my professional readings. Beautiful decks. So I loved the idea of setting a commitment to work with a few decks, and I'm going to do that again for September. So sorry, such a long video, but I wanted to share with you. It is what it is. Please leave in the comments below what decks are you using. Oh, what decks you used in August. Let me know if you have a video sharing the decks you used in August. Just link for us down below and we can go and watch your video as well. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you're still here with me half hour later, it's always a pleasure to have you here. It's always a pleasure to have the opportunity to share with you. Lots of love, my dear, and I'm looking forward to see you in the beginning of September with the decks that I'm going to work with in the month of September. Thank you so much. Lots of love. See you soon.